In the last session, we talked about the need for the parent to invite the teenager to reflect on what is causing them pain. We mentioned 3 things that the teenager needs to reflect on. We talked about the unfulfilled desires that they are experiencing. And I quoted from the scriptures that says that hope deferred makes the heart sick, but desire fulfilled is a tree of life. We also encouraged you to help the teenager reflect on their plans that have failed. These plans may be difficult for the teenager to discuss with you because you may be in complete disagreement with the framework of the plan to the point that you don't even listen to the details of the plan. We also encouraged you to invite the teenager to talk about their own distorted assumptions about life. And we said that one of the best ways to do that is for the parent to share with their teenager their own pain that they're experiencing. And I shared with you my own situation during the COVID pandemic when we were supposed to fly down to Zimbabwe, but we lost a lot of money in tickets that were not refunded. When the word tsunami is mentioned, what comes to your mind? Tsunami sounds like a Luhya word. Luhya is spoken in parts of Kenya, but it's actually a Japanese word that's been used as a scientific term to describe seismic sea wave. Now, tsunami happens when there's an earthquake in the sea. Not all earthquakes result in tsunamis, but when there's an earthquake, there's an underlying wave that can travel for hundreds of miles and can attain a speed of up to 800 kilometers per hour. Can you visualize that? That's the speed at which passenger jets are flying from continent to continent. Now, while the tsunami is coming through the sea, the ripples of the waves are only 1 or 2 feet high, less than 1 meter high. But the moment the tsunami hits the shore, the waves can go up to 10 feet, 20 feet, 60 feet. For you to visualize that, 20 meters is the height of a 6-story building. Now, when it does that, it brings destruction to the shore, to everything that's on the shore. You cannot prevent a tsunami. The only way that you can work through it is early detection and early preparedness. You have to have a system in place that tells you an earthquake has taken place at a particular distance in the sea, and that the waves that are coming will reach the shore. And with that kind of information, you can begin to prepare. So early detection and early preparedness, because you cannot really prevent a tsunami. Now, it's the exact same thing in working with your teenagers. Remember, the pain within the teenager has been simmering for a while before the tsunami of the eruption of anger shows itself on the surface. So, how often does a tsunami of anger erupt in your family? When's the last time that this happened to you? How long did it take to brew? Were you even aware that it was brewing? We need to be in touch enough with our teenagers to be aware that a little earthquake has taken place within them and that the waves are going on within their hearts. As a matter of time, they can erupt on the shore. Now, when the eruption comes, when the eruption happens, how do you respond to it? Do you demonstrate relational immaturity in the way you handle it? Or are you able to listen carefully and handle the eruption in a mature way? Remember that no country, no matter how well developed, can stand against a tsunami unless they prepare beforehand. So you as a parent need to prepare beforehand so that when the teenager erupts, you will know the extent of eruption, you will know how to guard yourself and how to protect the teenager, and how in the process you can begin to deal with what is going on. If you display immaturity, this will ensure that the tsunami of anger, the eruptions, will keep on happening endlessly. But if you demonstrate emotional maturity, In other words, if you are prepared beforehand, before the teenager erupts, it will ensure that you tame the teenager. You are able to calm them down in the midst of the eruption and begin to look at what was the cause of the earthquake that took place underneath. So it gives us an honest opportunity to measure the maturity of the teenager as well as the maturity of the parent. There are some general responses to conflict. The first is when the parent looks at conflict as a real threat to the relationship with their teenager. The second is when the parent considers the conflict as an opportunity to create distance between them and the teenager. Maintain distance. You don't want to deal with it, so you maintain distance. Both of these are dysfunctional ways of dealing with conflict. The third and preferred way is to wisely use conflict to address the weaknesses that it exposes, both in the relationship and in the life of the teenager, and the relationship style and the life of the parent. Use it to display that. Now, there are two goals for the parent. The big goal is spiritual maturity, both for you and for the teenager. Spiritual maturity. So the goal for both of you is to work on the spiritual immaturity that's being displayed by the conflict and begin to grow into spiritual maturity. Proverbs 14 and verse 26 says this: "He who fears the Lord has a secure fortress." He who fears the Lord, the parent who fears the Lord, has a secure fortress. And for his children, it will be a refuge. Think of it. You are fearing the Lord, you become a secure fortress, and your children find refuge in that. So walk with God is critical as a means of early preparedness. Parents need to remain mature in the midst of a conflict. You don't attain maturity in one day. Sometimes you have to mess up several times in the conflict to the point of almost losing your teenager before you come to your senses. Because in most cases, you're reacting to conflict the exact same way your parents reacted to you. So you need to remain anchored in the Lord the entire time. Then you won't be swept away. A big ship can be anchored on shore by a very small tethering rope, but the anchor is fixed on that which is immovable, and the winds can come and the ship will remain in place. There's a verse I mentioned earlier from Proverbs 15:1. I'm going to bring it up again. "A gentle answer turns away wrath." The parent who is prepared beforehand knows that no matter how hard the teenager comes on me, and no matter how much I'm tempted to push back, I will give back a gentle answer.